My name is Tori Thatcher. I'm 32 years old now, but the story I'm about to tell you started 5 years ago with a phone call that completely changed my life. 3 days before Thanksgiving, my mother said 7 words to me that shattered everything I believed about my family. Don't come home this year. Victoria doesn't want drama. No explanation. No apology, just 7 cold words, and then the call ended. In that moment, something inside me broke. I didn't know it yet, but that phone call would lead me to a completely different life. A life where 5 years later, I would be standing at my own wedding, introducing a different couple as the parents of the bride. While my biological parents stood in the back of the room, realizing they had lost me forever. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Before I tell you what happened, I want to ask you something. Have you ever felt like the outsider in your own family? Like no matter what you did, you were always the problem? If you've ever felt that way, let me know in the comments. And if stories like this interest you, take a moment to like and subscribe. It really helps more people find stories like mine. Now let me take you back to the moment everything started to fall apart. The phone call, it was November 21st, 3 days before Thanksgiving. I remember exactly where I was when the phone rang. I was standing in my tiny studio apartment in Boston, surrounded by half-packed bags. I had already started packing for my trip home to Connecticut. I'd even lit a pumpkin spice candle to make the apartment smell like fall. It was silly, but it made me feel excited about going home. Thanksgiving had always been complicated in my family, but part of me still hoped that maybe this year would be different. My phone buzzed on the counter. Mom, I smiled when I saw her name. I wiped my hands on my sweater and answered, "Hey Mom, I was just packing for the trip." Tori, her voice cut through my sentence. Cold, flat, serious, my stomach tightened instantly. Whenever my mother used that tone, it usually meant something bad was coming. "I need to tell you something," she said. My heart started beating faster. "What's wrong?" I asked quickly. "Is Dad okay?" "He's fine." There was a pause, a long one, then she said the words that would change everything. "Don't come home this year." For a second, I thought she was joking. I actually laughed. "What do you mean?" I asked. "Victoria doesn't want drama," my mother said. Her voice sounded annoyed now, like this whole conversation was inconvenient for her. "She's pregnant again and she doesn't need stress." My fingers tightened around the phone. "Drama," I repeated. "I haven't even talked to Victoria in months." "Exactly," my mother replied sharply. "And let's keep it that way." I felt the floor shift under my feet. "Mom, what are you talking about?" "You know how you get," she said. "How I get," my voice cracked. "Mom, the last time I talked to Victoria was when I asked her why I wasn't invited to her baby shower last year." "That's exactly what I mean," my mother snapped. "You always make everything about yourself." I stood there frozen. Snow had started falling outside my window. I watched it drift slowly past the glass as my mother continued speaking. "You need to understand something, Tori," she said. "Victoria is pregnant. She needs peace right now. She doesn't need arguments or tension." "I wasn't going to argue," I whispered. "Well, you always do." My chest felt tight. "Mom, I already bought my plane ticket. Then get a refund." Her tone left no room for discussion. "This year we're doing things that keep Victoria comfortable." The message was clear. Victoria mattered. I didn't. "You understand, right?" my mother said, but she didn't wait for my answer. The line went dead. The realization, I stood there staring at my phone long after the call ended. 27 years old, and my own mother had just told me I wasn't welcome at Thanksgiving. Because my sister didn't want drama. The worst part? This wasn't new. As I sat down slowly on the edge of my bed, memories started coming back one after another. Like scenes from a movie I'd been trying not to watch. My 16th birthday, I had spent weeks planning it. Nothing big, just a small party with 3 of my closest friends. We were going to have cake, then go bowling. Mom promised everything was ready. But the morning of my birthday, Victoria called crying. She had failed a calculus exam. Suddenly, my birthday didn't matter anymore. The party was canceled. Instead, we spent the whole day comforting my sister. "Don't be dramatic, Tori," my mom said when I started to cry. "Your sister needs us right now. We'll celebrate next weekend." We never did. My college graduation that day was supposed to be one of the proudest moments of my life. I had worked so hard. Late nights studying, part-time jobs, living on cheap ramen noodles just to survive, but I did it. I graduated with honors. I was the first person in my family to graduate from college. When I walked across the stage, I looked into the crowd for my parents. Their seats were empty. They arrived 2 hours later. Victoria had a routine prenatal appointment that morning. It couldn't be rescheduled, Mom explained later. You understand, right? Your sister's baby is more important than a ceremony, more important than me, that's what she meant. That's what she always meant. The truth I finally saw growing up, I learned something very quickly. Complaining only made things worse. If I said I was hurt, I was called sensitive. If I asked questions, I was called dramatic. If I spoke up, I was told I was selfish. So eventually I stopped speaking up. I became quieter, smaller, easier to ignore. I thought if I could just be agreeable enough, invisible enough, maybe one day they would finally choose me. But sitting there on my bed that night, staring at a useless plane ticket to Connecticut, I finally understood something. There was no version of me that would ever be small enough. The call to my father, I picked up my phone again. There was one person left I could try, my dad. Maybe he didn't know how serious this was. Maybe he would talk to Mom. Maybe, just this once, he would stand up for me. The phone rang 4 times before he answered. Hey kiddo, he said. His voice sounded careful, like he already knew why I was calling. Dad, I said quietly, did Mom tell you what she said to me? A pause. Yeah, she mentioned it. My heart sank. And you're okay with this? I asked. Another pause. I could hear the television in the background, probably football. You know how your mother is, he said finally. She's just trying to keep the peace. By excluding me, I said. It's not like that. Then what is it like, Dad? Silence. Do you want me there? I asked softly. 5 seconds passed, 10 seconds, I could hear him breathing. Finally, he said the words that hurt more than anything my mother had said. I think it's better if you listen to your mother this year. Something inside me went completely quiet, not anger. Not sadness, just emptiness. Okay, I said. Tori, I said okay. I hung up. He never called back. The sun slowly disappeared outside my apartment window. The room grew darker. And as the shadows filled the space, something else settled inside me too. A decision. If I wasn't welcome at their table, then maybe it was time to stop begging for a seat. Maybe it was time to build my own life. At that moment, I didn't know how that would happen. I didn't know where I would go. But 3 days later, on Thanksgiving afternoon, I would walk into a restaurant alone and meet the people who would change my life forever. But before that happened, Thanksgiving morning arrived. And it was worse than I expected.